The Kidnapped King by Ron Roy, Chapter 10. Just then, Pal began growling and biting at Mr. Linkletter's left shoe. "What on earth?" Mr. Linkletter said, pulling his foot away, but Pal wouldn't give up. Using his paws and teeth, he tried to pull Mr. Linkletter's shiny black loafer right off of his foot. "Joshua," Mr. Linkletter said, "please teach your dog some manners." "Take it off," Ruth Rose suddenly said. Mr. Linkletter glanced down at Ruth Rose. "I beg your pardon?" "I think I know what Pal wants," she says. "Please take off your shoe." Mr. Linkletter let out a big sigh. "Well then, if it will bring peace." The tall man leaned over and removed his left shoe. He showed it to Pal. "There, satisfied?" he asked. Pal grabbed the shoe in his mouth and dropped it at Josh's feet. "I was right," Ruth Rose yelled. She picked up the shoe and held it upside down. On the sole, stuck to a wad of gum, was a piece of shiny yellow glass. "The dog was after a nasty piece of gum?" Mr. Linkletter said. "No," Dink said. "That piece of glass is from Sammy's kaleidoscope. This means the kidnappers brought Sammy here to the hotel." "Donald, you're giving me a headache," Mr. Linkletter said, taking his shoe back. He pulled the gum off and slipped the loafer on his foot. "Who is Sammy? What kidnappers?" Dink told Mr. Linkletter about Sammy's disappearing from his bed. Then he explained about Joan Clinker's French lesson, Sammy's kaleidoscope, and the trail of yellow glass. "Now my mom's missing too," Dink said, "and I think Joan Clinker kidnapped them both. She might be keeping them up in her room." "Dink," Josh said, "Officer Fallon said Sammy was taken away in a boat. How could he be in a hotel and in a boat at the same time?" "I don't know," Dink said, "but I still want to check out Joan Clinker's room. That piece of glass on your shoe proves Sammy was here." Mr. Linkletter sighed and set down his half-eaten donut. "Very well," he said. "Miss Clinker has room 301. I'll take you up there. But you must be very quiet. Our guests don't expect crowds of children parading around the halls." He looked down at Pal, but the hound had to stay down here. The Shangri-La does not permit animals upstairs. "But he can smell stuff," Josh said. "We need him." Mr. Linkletter looked at Pal's big brown eyes. "Oh, all right. What's one more broken rule?" The kids and Pal followed Mr. Linkletter into the elevator. When it stopped on the third floor, they all walked quietly to room 301. A man in a white uniform was pushing a cart full of linens down the hall and around the corner. Mr. Linkletter unlocked the door and pushed it open. Joan Clinker's bed was made, and two suitcases stood on the floor. "Do your thing," Josh whispered into Pal's ear. Pal walked in a wide circle, sniffing the carpet. Suddenly, he made a beeline for the closet and began scratching the door. Josh opened the closet door, and Pal rushed in. Dink noticed that the closet was empty. Joan Clinker had packed everything. "What's in there, boy?" Josh asked, getting down on his hands and knees. While Pal and Josh searched the closet floor, Dink and Ruth Rose looked under the bed and in the bathroom. Suddenly, Josh backed out of the closet. "Look what Pal found," he cried. In his hand, he held a small piece of yellow glass. "You were right, Dink," Ruth Rose said. "Sammy must have been in this room." Just then, Pal raced from the room with his nose to the floor. The next thing they heard was Pal barking and growling. Everyone followed him, just in time to see Pal attack the white linen cart. He bit at the side of the cart and tried to pull it back along the floor. The man in the white uniform pushed the cart in the other direction. "Get out of here, mutt," the man yelled, kicking at the dog. That wasn't a good idea. Pal grabbed the man's pants cuff in his teeth and began thrashing and growling. "Pal, no!" Josh shouted. He pulled Pal away, but the hound was still barking at the man. Mr. Linkletter looked at the man. "Who are you?" he asked. "Just collecting the laundry," the man said, glaring at Pal. Mr. Linkletter pointed to the words stitched into the man's shirt. "But we don't use Ace Laundry Service," he said. Suddenly, the man bolted for the elevator, but he tripped over Pal's leash. It fell on his face. Mr. Linkletter moved spirally and sat on the man's back. "What are you doing in this building?" he demanded. "I ain't talking," the man mumbled with his face to the carpet. "Help me, guys," Dink said, grabbing the side of the cart with a solid yank. The kids toppled it over. A mountain of sheets and towels piled out into the floor. In the bottom of the cart lay Sammy, tied and gagged. Chapter 11.